So there's been a lot of online discourse about the term black church, whether or not it's divisive or promotes the idolatry of skin color or if it's biblical. And, I guess I could see why people will be concerned about that. But it's crazy that this has to be explained. But the black church only exists because white Christians forcibly excluded black people from their own worship service. It wasn't like something that black people did to choose to separate themselves. Literally, right now, you've got people debating whether or not the black church is promoting racial division in Christianity. And if we don't just take a moment to understand why, then you end up accusing the victims of segregation of being the perpetrators of segregation. You end up getting that moral analysis completely backwards. And what a slick trick that is, right? So here's what we're going to talk about real quick. The black church, it only exists because of racism, segregation, what they say, full stop. But it's become something beautiful, despite that painful origin and decades and centuries of, I guess you could just say, opposition. And yes, it's called the black church, but it's never excluded anyone. So we're going to look at three things real quick. How the black church was born from exclusion, how it became a lifeline for oppressed communities for decades and decades. And third, we'll talk about how the black in black church has never meant like blacks only. By the end, I'm hoping we'll see how demonizing the black church for just existing is dangerous, and criticizing it for being divisive just misses the point entirely. First, let's just talk about how we got here. The first black churches were established in Georgia and South Carolina literally before the Declaration of Independence. And in the 17 and 1800s, enslaved Africans weren't allowed to worship freely. As we know, they were kept from reading and oftentimes were persecuted for worship services that they organized on their own. The times where they were permitted in white churches, of course, things were segregated. They could sit in the back pew, maybe on the balcony, things like that. Obviously, after the Civil War, that doesn't change, right? Freed blacks are still being denied entry to white churches, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think a lot of people understand how dehumanizing it is to assert that you can't worship as an equal congregant just because of your skin color. So crazy. Organizations like the AME weren't born just from black people wanting to do their own thing. Richard Allen and other Methodists left their church after being literally pulled from their knees during prayer because they were in the wrong section of the church. Imagine you your eyes are closed, and it's not funny, but it's just like imagine your eyes are closed. You're in the spirit, you're worshiping, and someone pulls you up from your knees. So the point is the black church wasn't a choice. It wasn't like black people were like, hey, let's segregate churches. It was just literally a response to being forcibly segregated. When white Christians said, hey, you can't worship here, or if you worship here, you got to do it like this, or you got to stay over there. Black people said, fine, we will do this on our own and we'll do it our own way. Now, I guess somebody could make the argument that maybe like the term is outdated and that it should update now, but next, we're going to talk about what the black church has become as opposed to just what it started as. In the decades following emancipation and even into Jim Crow and beyond, the black church has just become the backbone for the black community. Regardless of how you feel about religion or the church now, there's no denying that as this country has progressed, the black church has been a key factor during black uplift. During Jim Crow, when black people were being systemically excluded from everything, the black church became everything. The black church and places like it, where we could all communally gather, became everything. It oftentimes was the school or the community center, or it oftentimes was the organizing hub, the mutual aid society, etc. During the civil rights movement, it's no coincidence that many leaders were church leaders. Dr. King, Fred Shuttlesworth, Ralph Abernathy, even Malcolm X. These guys are leaders of churches. The church at that time was one of the only institutions that black people could own and control in full. It's where we could speak freely, organize safely, and build power collectively. It wasn't just spiritual at this point. At this point, it's about survival. But this is why the black church exists, right? It's not about excluding others or idolatry of skin color. It's a living memorial of Black resilience. A lot of times, I don't think we understand that generations before us lived in a time where the church could have been the only safe place available to them. And even that was encroached upon several times, as we know. It's a place where communities build something beautiful in the face of ridiculous oppression. Denying the term or denying the importance of the Black church just dismisses the beauty of his existence. I guess an argument could be that, like, post-integration, right? Why don't we see a better integration of churches? And I think, frankly, ask yourself if white people want Black people in the churches, first of all, and understand that Black people often understand that integration means Black people being forced into white spaces and Black spaces ultimately disappearing. The true nature of integration has never actually been accomplished in America, but that's a whole nother video. It's coming. So essentially, you got the Black church being like, yo, we built something valuable and we're not erasing it. And furthermore, why should we? And then the third point is that the Black church has never excluded anyone. I grew up in a Black church that had several white people. You go to any Black church next Sunday and you'll see exactly what I mean. White people, Latino members, everybody's welcome. Everybody's participating fully. The Black in Black church describes its history, not its membership requirements. And if you compare that to white churches during segregation, they had explicit rules that you had to follow and criteria that you had to meet. And I'm sure that goalpost was moving every Sunday. But when the Black church was created, they never put those rules in place. And I think that says a lot about the truth of their belief. Nobody ever got pulled from their knees during prayer. That exclusion and that hate only flow one way. So when people are saying that they're not a Black church or saying that the term Black church is divisive, they're projecting some type of weird white evangelical, white nationalist racism usually. And I get it. I get, like, wanting everybody to feel welcomed because that reflects the nature of Christ. Like, let me be clear, like, Jesus would never approve of racial discrimination of any kind, especially in sacred worship spaces. But we got to be careful, man. Some of those Christian nationalist talking points are rooted in something much more sinister than it might seem on its face. When they say that it's divisive, let them know that it's a tradition that was born of exclusion that's only ever embraced inclusion and invitation to the gospel. It's an institution that, while far from perfect, has persisted in the face of incredible odds. And celebrating that is not the idolatry of skin color. I would say it's actually a powerful witness to Christian perseverance against a lot of negative factors coming from the world. So here's the bottom line. The Black church exists because white Christians created segregation, not because Black people wanted division. It then became a cornerstone of our communities in the face of constant oppression, and it remains open to everyone, even as it honors its own history and tradition. And look, the point is that when we ignore history, we sound silly. You end up blaming the victims of exclusion for not moving past something that they never even started. How can you demand that people leave an institution that literally kept them alive? And then we miss the witness of a beautiful church tradition that responded to rejection with welcome. But that's it, man. It's a quick one. I think there are a lot bigger issues in the church than idolatry of skin color. Does idolatry of skin color happen? Sure. But you can love Christ and be proud of who you are. That goes for everybody. And we're all made in his image. To love your neighbor as yourself, you got to love yourself first. But that's it. I'm going to catch y'all on the next one. Appreciate you. Love.